Hi, I'm Shelley Bailey, founder of Shine, Savor, Celebrate, a lifestyle brand rooted in transformation for women aged 40 to 65. I also became a sommelier at the age of 50 after going through a very traumatic divorce, very unexpected. And I needed to go out and get a full-time career at the age of 50. And I happened to have been studying to become a sommelier just for fun. And it ended up becoming my lifeline. And it really gave me my life back. It was very healing for me and really gave me hope at a time that all hope was really lost at that point for me. And I work for a winery right now. I do sales across the state of Colorado, and I have poured wine at 5-star resorts to 750 guests. I have poured wine in intimate locations all around Colorado. But what I have found to be my most favorite is sharing wine around someone's kitchen table, or maybe on a picnic on Pikes Peak, or out on your patio or in your lawn, just having a beautiful wine experience where there's close communication and connection. And I just love the connection that people receive through wine and stories and food and laughter. And so what I'm wanting to offer you here is just some little tips and tidbits on how you could host your own home wine event. And one of the most important things to me is that ambiance. Okay, I'm big on ambiance. So when I think of ambiance, I want candles. I think it's important to have candles unscented. Please make a note of that. Because when you have scents, it really does affect how you taste the wine. And if you're wanting to go for a pure wine experience, just have beautiful candles, no scent. And I love fresh flowers. So if there's any way you can do fresh flowers, it's always lovely to have fresh flowers around. I like to make a playlist for whatever the event is. Tonight, I'm doing a Spanish wine and tapas event at my house, and we're going to have a beautiful Spanish guitar playlist playing. Also, please dim the lights, okay? I know I sound like American Idol, but you need to have your lights be dim. Bright lights and intimate setting just doesn't go very well. So please create ambiance. And it really, based on how your house is, I host mine most often in my kitchen. I do have a beautiful deck, but in Colorado, we get a lot of, wind and rain in the afternoon. So wherever you live, my sister's in San Diego, she puts on beautiful wine events out in her cabana or in her backyard. So you find your spot where you know you can entertain well. Let's talk about the pour. So a lot of people have no idea how many glasses of wine you get out of a bottle of wine. So the traditional wine bottle is 750 milliliters, which is about 24 ounces. So when you are pouring 6-ounce pours, you're going to get 4 glasses out of that bottle. A lot of restaurants will do 6-ounce pours or 5-ounce pours if they're trying to make more money. So if you're doing 5-ounce pours, you're basically going to get about 5 glasses of wine from that. So when you have your guests over, and if you're just pouring one varietal, say you're pouring Cab Sauv all night or Pinot Noir, you can just pour 5 to 6-ounce pours, and you can kind of determine how much wine you need based on how many guests you're going to have with this calculation. If you're deciding to do several wines, like tonight, I'm hosting a Spanish wine and tapas dinner at my house, and we're going to be pouring 5 wines. So we do not want to be pouring 6 ounces 5 times. My guests will end up sleeping over, which I'm not sure I want that. And so what I'm doing is 3-ounce pours. That's basically going to be 2 glasses because I have 4 traditional wines, and then I have a sherry. So the sherry is going to be just maybe 2 ounces. It's more of a dessert wine. And so just a little note to this is really just to be mindful of how much you're pouring for your guests. And it also helps you plan how many bottles that you need to buy. So just remember the pour on that one. The other thing that is really important, and people, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is wine temperature. Okay, so if I drink a red wine that is even room temperature or warm, I send it back if I'm at a restaurant. If I'm at my friend's house, well, to be quite honest, I bring my own wine to most of my friends' homes because I just bring the wine to share with everybody because I know it's going to be good and properly at the proper temperature. So what happens is when red wine gets too warm, it burns your throat when it goes down, and you lose some of the flavor profile and the essence of the wine. So there's a range of temperatures, and most of you are not going to have like a wine refrigerator that's going to keep your wine at 55 degrees. So 55 degrees is like the middle of the row, the middle of that's the appropriate most wines at 55 degrees, you're going to be fine. Now, when you're serving Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, you're going to take those right out of your refrigerator and pour. They're not going to be 55 degrees. You don't want them at that stage. When you do, like a little tip I like to do with people who are doing Chardonnay or Viognier, like the more medium body white wines, you would take it out of your refrigerator, set it on your counter for 20 minutes, and then pour it. So it has time to get, what happens when the wines like that are too cold is they lose the flavor. It just, and the aromatics, it really just damages those. So just like at home tips, take those wines out 20 minutes early. Sauv Blanc, no, keep that in, pour it right out of the refrigerator. If you're doing red wines, now if you have like a hot house upstairs by all these windows, one of my best friends, she has a wine rack in front of her very hot window upstairs, and her wine is always warm. So it doesn't taste good. It's also ruining the integrity of the wine. So I suggest people, it doesn't look pretty, but you could put it in your closet. If you have a basement, that's completely the perfect place to keep wine. If you don't have those choices, you could put some red wine in the refrigerator for 10 minutes, like just a very small amount of time, to just get that heat edge off of it, and it would be able to be served at a proper temperature at that point. So most red wines are 55 to 65 degrees. So when you get the heavier reds, you're looking 60 to 65 is appropriate. 55 to 60 for like Pinot Noir, more the lighter body reds. And so that's just kind of simple little at-home tips you can do. One thing you don't want to do, especially when you live in Colorado, is don't buy your wine in the winter and leave it in your car overnight, because your red wine will be freezing. If you do that in the summer, it's too hot, and it does break down what's special in the wine, and it's really not going to taste good. So just bring your wine inside after you purchase it. Another thing is that I love to talk about is the wine glasses, because I have to admit I'm a wine glass snob, but I think I've earned that. So I don't expect you to be snobby about it, but I think it's just important for a few little tips with wine glasses. If you want to go all out, you can look in Wine Spectator, you can go into Riedel website, and they will tell you there's a glass for Pinot Noir, there's a glass for Bordeaux, there's a glass for Chardonnay, Champagne, and I do have a plethora of glasses based on varietal. But really, for someone at home, and you're not doing what I do, which is I host all the time, is have like a nice Bordeaux, which is nice red wine glass. But I prefer stems. I know sometimes we're outside. It's nice to be able to have a stemless for that. But really with stemless, one of the things with glasses is that when you hold the bowl, it warms the wine. And so when you have a stem, you're supposed to hold the glass at the stem, not at the bowl. But when you have a stemless glass, you are holding it at the bowl, obviously. And so the wine just gets too warm before you're finished with it. So I always recommend, if you can, do stemmed wine glasses. But for simplicity, I would just do one red Bordeaux wine glass, one white wine glass. And then you can pour all your white wines in the white wine glass, and you can pour any sort of red wine in a red wine glass. So just keep it simple. If you are curious, like I said, my website has listings of all sorts of different ways you can, and educational material on how you can learn about the different wine glasses and why it's important, because it is very important based on the aroma and the flavor profile. My worst thing is when people serve it in like a solo cup or a beer cup. We did a test with my brother at one point because he only drinks beer, and we poured he didn't believe that it mattered, the glass mattered. So we poured his wine in his beer glass, and then he took a sip out of my glass. And my redneck brother absolutely was astonished at the difference. Like, he thought we were just making it up. So it's real. And so I just keep that in mind when you're hostessing. And really, these are the core basics, right? If you want to do any extras, like tonight, we're having a really special event. It's curated. I sent out invitations. We made menus. I have a chef coming over. She's going to cook the Spanish tapas. So we have a beautiful menu that's created. Our table setting looks gorgeous. And I have some tasting notes. I have a map of Spain on an easel so you can really make it as formal and fun as you want. This isn't really formal. It's kind of casual and fun, but add whatever amenities suit you. But I think it's fun to have the visual aid so people know, hey, this first wine we're drinking is from this region in Spain. The next one is from this, and they can actually see the map. And so there's a lot of extra things you can add just to make it extra special. So these are just a few tips for how you can host your own wine event at home. So I would love to make a toast to you, and I hope you have fun at your next event.